So, you know what kinds of changes you need to make in order to increase the performance, in order to get the results um, of a better way of working, to get to that desired state that we've just spoken about. But we also need to prepare. We need to plan our route. And a couple of things that we will need to do before we begin the journey is the first thing is to analyze the performance of the team. Where are they now? What are the data? What are the metrics that currently they are achieving? Then I want you to benchmark the performance of your department. Okay, so you analyze it, you get all the data, all the metrics. Then you say, okay, so this is where we are. So you put a line in the sand, you say, this is where we are currently. And now we're going to move from this point and let's see. Then you identify external factors. So, what might be the external climate, the external factors that might influence this journey? And so, we need to identify them and try and harness them so that they might help us towards opportunities. And if there are external factors that might be threats, we work out how we can stop those threats from becoming a reality within our environment. And then we analyze organizational operations. So we got to look at the rest of the organization. Is it conducive to going on this change? Do we need to get stakeholder buy-in to be able to start this change? We need to make sure that the conditions are right so that we can start this change. So we need to analyze the different organizational operations. Now we need to be specific. What exactly is going to change? What processes, what SOPs, what what way of structure of working? Is it going to be a team thing? Is it the way the shifts work? What exactly is going to change? Because we need to communicate that. And so if people know about the change and what they need to be aware of, then it makes change a little bit easier. Then we need to say, what are the consequences this change is likely to cause? So, yeah, sometimes there's going to be negative consequences, but hopefully the majority will be positive consequences. But we need to be realistic. What are the consequences of making these change? Then we need to also work out, okay, so how is this change going to affect our organization on a physical level? So the observable level, what we can see, what we can feel, what we can hear. Okay, so in the physical level, do we need to put things in place? Then we need to look at procedural level. So what processes will be affected? Okay, what SOPs will be affected, what way of working, the how of the organization, what of those will be changed. Then we need to look at the relational level. Now, people might be thrown out and there could be conflict between people because of this. So we need to look at the relational level. Is there any changes in power structure? What relationships might be impacted because of this change? And then on a cultural level, now the whole feel of the organization might be affected. The way that people engage with each other and engage with the company might be affected. There might be new norms, new values, new beliefs within the organization because of these changes. And so we need to highlight all of these things: the physical level, the procedural level, the relational level, and the cultural level. And all of these are interrelated. So you'll see that they will impact each other, knock on, create domino effects, but ultimately there will be impacts on all of these different levels. And so we need to try and unpack it before we start the journey of change. Then, once we get to the point of what will change and how it will change and what the impacts will be, we also need to do something called the SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, what are the company's strengths? What strengths do we have as a company? What abilities and skills and resources do we have that are strengths over our competitors and over those also in our industry? Then, what are our weaknesses? What are the internal things that we know we're not great at and that we often have to sort of cover in order to move forward? What are those weaknesses that we have? What are those gaps that we really do have to fill? And we need to be honest with ourselves. Then, what opportunities are there outside? Are there new markets that we can go into? Is there new products that is coming out, or new technologies that we can take advantage of? So outside there, how can we look at the opportunities, and how can we embrace the opportunities that are available? Then we need to look at the threats. So what are the things on the outside that could actually affect us and could damage us and could weaken us, because we haven't really thought of it? So let's take a look outside of our boundaries on the opportunities and threats that could affect us. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to go to Summative Assessment 4.2. So it's page 16 to page 18 in section 4, demonstrating our knowledge and insight into the need for change within the context of environmental change. So let's go to number 4.2. And here we go. So now what we've got to do is we've got to describe the desired ideal future state for our organization and for our team on the physical level, on the procedural level, and for the relational level. So tell me, in a perfect world, what will it look like physically? What will you see? What will need to change on the floor of a factory, or in the way that you guys store documents? You got to tell me exactly what it looks like when you have made these changes, the ideal situation. Then, in terms of procedures, what is the ideal? Tell me about that. Tell me about the ideal processes and procedures, and how it will obviously then move the company into a desired state. And then tell me about the ideal relational situation or environment. Tell me how people connect, how they respond to each other, how they engage with each other. So give me the desired ideal future state on those three levels. Then you are going to do a SWOT analysis for your organization. Okay, so let's take a look at your organization. Tell me, what is its strengths? What is its weaknesses? What are the opportunities that your organization currently has in this environment? But what are the threats that might actually damage your business? And list all of those: the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And that helps us to identify which changes we might need to make and what we are best suited to based on what we have internally and what is going on externally. Then tell me how you would present the SWOT analysis to substantiate the argument for a change process. So you would say, okay, so these are our strengths, and therefore we can take hold of these opportunities. But we also then have to speak about, if we don't sort out our weaknesses, we might be open to certain threats. And so we need to speak from both sides. What opportunities might we be able to take hold of it because of our strengths? And what are the potential threats that we might have because of our weaknesses? And then substantiate what changes should be made based on that SWOT analysis. So I want you to not just do the SWOT analysis, but tell me what it means and how we can embrace the opportunities, but also make sure that the threats don't affect us too badly. Then, after you've done that, I want your manager to sign off, and that's on page 18. So you present this to your manager, present what your answers have been, and then get your manager to sign and get your manager to date this section. Okay, so this is a fairly lengthy section. You are going to be doing some workplace application. You can ask questions, do a little bit of research, but ultimately you've got to make this real and tangible for your organization. It needs to be specific to what your organization looks like and what its SWOT is and what the ideal states would be and what changes need to be made. So don't just fill in whatever you want to fill in. actually do some work, think about it, engage with the stakeholders, and then put it together. So it should take you about 15 minutes to make enough notes, and then remember to engage and then to finish that off once you have engaged in the workplace. Okay, so start with your notes, give yourself 15 minutes, and then remember to complete this when you get back to your workplace.